Welcome to Keep the Game Beautiful podcast. Each week, I highlight incredible people who are doing amazing things in soccer, the beautiful game. I'm Anna Turi, your host. Thank you for listening. I'm really excited about today's show. My guest this week is amazing and someone who empowers sport for all people. My high school season is coming up very quickly. We will have our first team meeting this week where we learn a little bit more about important dates and a lot of stuff like that. Our team will also be helping the middle school a little bit as they think about starting a little soccer program. Like many other teams, we adopt an annual theme or slogan. This year my team is using I can, I will, end of story. On Friday, I bought Carly Lloyd's book, When Nobody Was Watching. And after reading the first few pages, I can't wait to learn more. I know her writing and strength as a player will be an inspiration to our team throughout the year. It's kind of funny because today's podcast is Alyse LaHue. I'm really looking forward to sharing a bit of her story with all of you. It was so cool to connect with Alyse as she also grew up in Iowa, not too far from where I live now. Sometimes it's tough to think about being in a small town and wondering where things will lead you. Her strength, her trust in taking unpaid opportunities to better herself, and her commitment in the game and to all people is a true inspiration. I'm chatting with Alyse LaHue today. Alyse played collegiately at St. Ambrose University and grew up about an hour from where I live in Clinton, Iowa. She has coached at the university, high school, and youth level. She was the general manager of the Chicago Red Stars for 5 years. She is now the general manager of Sky Blue and has helped develop Sky Blue to what it is today. She helps grow opportunities for women in soccer leadership roles and is passionate about this work.
Well, first of all, Anna, thank you for having me on. Where are you from?
I'm from Marion.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know I was speaking to a fellow Iowan. That's fantastic. I had no idea, so that's great. I grew up, in Clinton, Iowa, and played high school soccer there. At a really small school, I had to play with the boys growing up, and then I decided to stay close to home. I went to St. Ambrose. I played soccer there. That was the first time I ever played on an all-girls team, was when I got to college, actually, and I wanted the experience of staying a little bit closer to home. I'd gone to a really small high school, so I wanted to go to a smaller college, and it was a really good fit for me. Fast forward to today, and then that was a while back now, but I always knew I wanted to work in sports and women's sports specifically, so we didn't have a women's pro league when I graduated from college, but I found out they were going to try to bring another one back later, so I went and got my master's degree in business administration. So I went back to St. Ambrose, and that allowed me to start coaching. So I started coaching as a grad assistant there at my former university, which was really fun. It developed my love for coaching. I coached club soccer, so I got to coach a U14 team. I got to coach a high school team, really just honing my skills as a coach, and really enjoyed coaching female athletes. But from there, I knew I wanted to go into management, so I found an opportunity with the Chicago Red Stars when they first got started in the last league. I started as an intern there, and the first day I got interviewed, I walked in and said that I wanted to be a GM one day. And luckily for me, the person I was speaking to became my mentor. She still is today, Marcia McDermott. I still work with her now, over 10 years later. So that was really the start of my career in women's soccer. And I've had a few stints on a couple different teams, but have always come back to women's pro soccer. And that's really my love and what I enjoy doing.
So in my podcast, Keep the Game Beautiful, I always ask the same 3 questions. So first, what does the beautiful game mean to you?
I think for me the most important thing about soccer is that it's just a little round ball. It's a very easy game to play, so it's very accessible for everybody. It doesn't necessarily matter what kind of field you're on. You don't really need much equipment. You can make a ball out of tape if you have to, or rubber bands. It's a really accessible game. So for me, I think talking about the beautiful game is that anybody can do it anywhere at any time, and you can do it all by yourself as well. All you need is one ball to juggle or to play or to kick against a wall, or you can play with your friends in the grass, in the dirt, outside. You don't need a hoop, you don't need extra equipment. So it's a very simple game, and I think that makes it really accessible for everybody.
What are actions or things you do to keep the game beautiful?
Yeah, for me, obviously, my focus has really been on the women's game and making sure that we're providing a lot of opportunities for women. Obviously, seeing the opportunity for young girls to aspire to be pro players is really important, but I also hope that I show in my own role as a general manager that there's other opportunities, that you can stay in soccer. You don't have to be a pro player. That's not the only pathway. As long as you're enjoying the game, there are so many other ways you can get involved. You could be a communications person for a club. You could work for a league office now since we have a pro league. You can be a general manager. So for me, I like the possibility of inspiring the next generation to be able to dream about being a women coach, a women GM, have an administrative role. So that for me is really important, that we continue to inspire in that way.
How do you encourage others to keep the game beautiful?
Yeah, I think, again, just by virtue of being a woman in a role that's not very common. I'm one of only 2 female GMs in the National Women's Soccer League, and we currently only have 1 female coach at my own club, Sky Blue. I think we can do better with those numbers. I want to see more women come into these roles, and I think that's really important. So for me, I love to mentor the next generation. I want girls to see that these are possibilities. You can be a coach, you can be a GM, you can be at the highest level. You deserve to be in the room with all the other men that are working there, and you deserve to be there. So I hope I continue to inspire in that way, just by virtue of being in this role and being a positive person. I think that's really important. It's a little cheesy, but I talk about love a lot with my club. I talk about community. I talk about gratitude. I think all of those things are really important, and we shouldn't be shy about using those words. They might sound overly feminine, but to me it just means community, and we love the game. We should take care of each other. At the end of the day, it is just a game, but obviously it's so much more meaningful to us in terms of our lives and how it inspires us. So I hope that we can all use the game to love each other a little bit more and inspire this sense of community together.
How do you think we can bring more women into the game?
It's definitely my responsibility to make sure that I'm bringing more women into mentorship roles with me, and that I provide a space for women to come into roles within my club and can move up the ladder to aspire to be a GM or a director or a manager, even into those roles, that we bring more women coaches into the game. So I do feel it's my own responsibility, but the reality is that there's more men in positions like mine than there are women. So we also need allies, and we need men to be our allies to bring women into these roles and to consider more women for coaching positions, for GM positions, and to give us the opportunity. We just need the space. I promise that you give a woman the opportunity to come into these high-level roles. We're going to work harder than anybody to make sure that we show people that we deserve to be here. So we need not just women to do that, but also men.
So one of the things I want to start with, right now, you are recognized as a leading woman in sports. What does it mean to know that so many people honor and appreciate your work?
Yeah, I never take it for granted. I think every time somebody comes up to me, and certainly I'm here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. This is a really exciting time. I see a lot of old friends here, but I've also met so many new people that have come up to me and said they're inspired by the story of Sky Blue, and it's not my story. To me, it's a community. I didn't do this alone. I've got Tammy Murphy, one of our owners, has been really integral in working with me. I've got a staff around me that is absolutely amazing. We've got a community of fans that really care about this club and just needed the opportunity to be brought back into the club in a meaningful way. So I don't do this alone, but it is really meaningful to hear people say thank you for what's happening at Sky Blue. That means the world to me.
I can tell you invest yourself fully into ensuring the fan experience. When there was a concern of discrimination in the game, you put out on your cell phone number for fans that needed help. Why did you do this? Can you talk about the response or feedback you got?
Yeah, I think that can be a little scary maybe to put your cell phone number out into the world, but I've always been very transparent as a leader. I think that's really important, that we provide a little more transparency around the women's pro game. So for me, that means putting myself out there on social media. I love those tools as a way to be able to interact with fans and people that love the game and be able to talk to them about what's going on with the club and with the league and with women's soccer as a whole. So I put my phone number out there. I put my email out there. I encourage people to reach out to me. I've met many people at the convention that simply reached out to me because I put my number out there and they were inspired by what's happening at Sky Blue and wanted to talk to me about it. So I love these opportunities where we can bring our community together and make it smaller and we can interact with one another.
I know there was an issue with the game where fans were expecting a beer garden and things changed a little bit. Can you tell me the story and how you responded?
Yeah, are we allowed to talk about that on this podcast? Have you said your age?
Yeah, we can go for it.
Okay. Unfortunately, our beer garden fell through for one of our games this summer, and we have a lot of families at our game. We obviously have a lot of girls that are under the age of 18, but we also have a lot of adults that come with their friends, and they like to enjoy a beer at a game. Nothing crazy, just having a beer on a summer day at the game. So our beer garden has always been popular, and unfortunately, right before one of our really big games, the university actually lost the liquor license to be able to put the beer garden there. So we couldn't have anything within the gates. So I went on a bit of a reconnaissance mission and just found a way to be really transparent with the fans, tell them that unfortunately we weren't going to have it, but I was going to do whatever I could to still have them come out to the game. So we essentially did a big community tailgate in the parking lot before the game, and obviously there were some beverages there, and I can't say whether or not I put them there, but there were a lot of fans out there that were grateful and excited, and a lot of people met a new friend just because of that tailgate. And that to me is what this is about, that soccer brings people together, and that there are so many ways to work around what can be perceived as a problem. So I think what started as a problem, to me, was just an opportunity, and we brought people together through that.
So it sounds like your Sky Blue has a very great community. Was that community always there, or has it been formed?
I think there's a core of people that have been around Sky Blue for a very long time that are big fans of this club and believe in it so wholeheartedly. But I also recognize there was a time where maybe we lost some of our fans at the club. And before I came into it, there were a lot of people that said, I was a season ticket member before, but I've now left. I'm concerned about coming. So for me, we wanted to rebuild this sense of community around the club and make people feel like it's really theirs. So many new people have now come into the fray. We've brought people back that loved the club before and maybe left for a little while. So all of these people are just as important. The folks that have been around for a long time, we want to welcome with open arms all the new fans that are coming in, especially as we move to Red Bull Arena. I think there's a new opportunity for us to engage fans that maybe couldn't get out to our games before. So we're here with open arms. We embrace everybody that wants to come out and have a good time.
So yesterday I spoke with Peter Wilt. I know in the early days of the Red Stars, you all gave so much for a pursuit of a dream and a vision. Am I correct that you were an unpaid intern at first?
I was. I spent a few months. You could say it was unpaid from a monetary perspective, but I got to sit at a table with Peter Wilt and Marcia McDermott every day. So I think getting a free education from them has more than paid off for me.
What was the work that you were doing, and what type of mentoring did you get in that role?
Yeah, when I think back, I really was the runner. I was doing everything. It was just Peter in the president role and Marcia as the GM of the team, and there wasn't a full staff yet. So I was really just there to do whatever they needed. I remember I helped create the very first email newsletter for the club. When I look back on it, I still can find it in my inbox. It's absolutely terrible by today's standards, but at the time it was pretty cool. I remember driving to every soccer store and indoor facility all around Chicagoland. We were putting these ballot boxes. I think people can almost not even imagine what that is anymore because we do everything electronically, but we actually had sign-up forms in a ballot box that I went and put in all of those locations where teams could vote on the name of the club, which is another thing that came from Peter Wilt, this sense of community. Let the fans and let the people vote on what the name of the club is actually going to be. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time out on the road putting those ballot boxes out and then going back out and picking up all the slips and counting them. But it was a wide variety of tasks, and it was just really great for me to be able to sit with them and watch a team being formed.
Who were some of the people that helped you along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I learned so much from the fan experience from Peter. So he was a big part of my early career. And then I worked with Marcia McDermott for a long time, and I still do. Now that I'm a GM, after learning under her for a while, I brought her back to Sky Blue as a technical advisor, and she's somebody that I've always relied on in my career. There's so many women that have paved the way for me to be in this role that I think a lot of times go unrecognized, and it would be hard for me to name all of them, but there are so many women, and especially seeing so many of them here at the convention, that have paved the way for me, and I'm so grateful to them. And it's in a variety of roles. You know, they've been coaches, they've been administrators, or worked in the game in so many different capacities, and given so much to develop the next generation, which is what I am, that now it's important for me to give back to the next generation.
So you had said when you went into your interview, you really wanted to be a general manager. When you were in your first year as a general manager, were you a bit surprised?
Yeah, I think more specifically, I told Marcia I wanted her job. I probably could have been a little more eloquent about how I said that, but luckily for me, she was willing to take me on and wasn't offended by that. When I first became a GM, I still was really quite young in my career. I became a GM after about 3 years, so it was very rapid for me, and it was actually with a men's club. I went to a USL Pro Club. It wasn't actually in the women's league, so I had an opportunity to go out to Los Angeles and work with Charlie Namo, who's been around the women's game for a long time. So that was a real trial by fire going into it. It was the first year of USL Pro Men's League, so it was brand new, a lot of growing pains and challenges, and then me being a first-year GM, it was a very, very big learning year for me. And in every way I can say I probably was not ready, but at some point you just have to leap in and do it and give it a try and just learn from all the challenges and grow from them.
What advice would you give to someone that wants to be a GM?
First thing, just never give up on your dream. There's no one pathway for getting here. I think our game is still evolving in so many ways, whether you want to be a GM of a soccer team or any other pro sports organization, or maybe not a pro sports team, maybe a semi-pro team. So there's no one pathway, but the important thing is just to work hard and to keep your eyes open. You never know where opportunity is going to come, and I believe in showing a great level of kindness to everybody around you, the people that are going to help you, the people behind you. I think those are all important aspects for continuing on your pathway to getting to where you want to be.
So growing up, when you were playing, did you always know you wanted to coach?
I don't think I did. I was growing up in a small town in Iowa, so I didn't have a vision of what it could look like for women's sports. I didn't really know of women's pro sports leagues. I think the WNBA started when I was in high school. So this was all relatively new for me, even the concept of these positions that are available for women in women's sports. So I don't think I knew back then, but I knew that I loved sports and what they brought to me in the sense of community, and I loved having something fun to do with my friends. So I don't think I really fully developed what I wanted to do until well into college.
So although most of your time was spent in soccer, what did you learn from your year with the WNBA?
I think what's so impressive about the WNBA is that there's so many women in leadership positions. So when I was with the Seattle Storm, there was a woman in the CEO, president role. They also had an all-female ownership group, which is one of the only of its kind in the U.S. for a pro sports team. So I was really looking forward to learning under a group of very powerful and accomplished women. The WNBA has been around for over 20 years, so there's so many lessons that I think the NWSL can learn from them. And obviously they're different sports. In a lot of the ways there's some different demographics, but there's so many more ways that we overlap than our differences. And I think we're starting to see now the way our leagues start to learn from each other, and players are really starting to learn from each other, as we just saw with the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement, which is really good for their players. I think women's soccer is also going through some of that. So our players fighting for, pay equity and some of these things that are going to progress our league and push us forward. So there are so many things that I take from it. I couldn't pinpoint it down to one thing, but I'm absolutely a better leader, a better manager, a better general manager in women's soccer from having that experience in the WNBA.
I know Sky Blue had a rough time before you joined. What were some of your first goals to address?
We always said as a staff the biggest thing we wanted to do was earn back the trust of our fans. If we don't have fans, there's not really a point in showing up for the game. It's really for them. It's for them to feel like they have a home and a club and a community. So that was our number one thing. I'd almost say there was nothing else. That was it. It was earning back the trust of our fans. So we did that in everything we did. That was our number one goal, whether that was doing more community events, finding more ways to integrate our fans with the club, finding more ways to make them feel involved, being more transparent with them. Now, obviously, on the flip side, we had to improve some of the conditions that were leading to those conversations, so making things better for the players as well, and that's obviously important to the fans. They care about the players and want to know that they're taken care of, so behind the scenes, we were working on a lot of those things to improve conditions for the players as well. But the fans have responded, and I think we checked that box off. I feel really good about where we ended up after last season.
How long did it take you to earn the trust of your fans?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process. I think even now, we're coming off of our NWSL draft yesterday. We were able to draft some new exciting players to the club, and we've been rebuilding in every aspect of this club. So I'd say we did a really good job of that over the last year and showing that the players are now in a better position. They're feeling like they're taken care of. The fans feel like we have a strong level of customer service, so they feel really good about coming to our games. But that's an ongoing process that's never going to stop. I'm in a role that I think is a privilege to be in. I don't take this for granted any day. I know how important this role is for women's soccer, and the work that I'm doing is bigger than just me or just Sky Blue. So I certainly recognize that, and I every day have to earn the vote of the fans. They need to believe in me as a leader, support what I'm doing, support the work of our club. So every single day I'm going to work to make sure that they trust me and believe in me as a leader of this club.
When did you feel like the team was turning around, and how did you know that you were on the right track?
We definitely got a new invigoration from our owners. I don't think they had recognized that the club had fallen behind the rest of the league. They're very busy people in their day jobs. So Tammy Murphy, one of the owners, actually came on board in a day-to-day capacity at the same time I did. So she and I really worked together to analyze the entire club and make sure that we were heading in the right direction. I wouldn't say there was maybe one moment, because it still feels like an ongoing project for me. I've only been in this GM role for less than a year now. So it's definitely ongoing, but you feel little things along the way, like when your players say thank you for, moving into Red Bull Arena or providing better conditions. It's all the little things, all the little thank yous and the signs of gratitude from the fans. I think when you see those little moments, you feel like you're on the right track and you're doing something good.
Is there something you wish people would know about your work or the people you lead that they might not know?
I'm pretty transparent, so I think people know quite a bit about me, especially in the public eye. And if there's any questions, certainly my phone number's out there, my email's out there. They can reach me on social media, DMs. I'm pretty accessible. So, look, I think I'm in that transparency. Have been clear that again, I'm here to earn their vote every day. And I want to make sure that I make them proud, that we have a club that they're proud to be a part of, and that we can bring more new fans into and grow our family and grow our club. So I think from that regard, that's the biggest takeaway for me is knowing that I'm not done. My work is not done. I'm going to keep working every day, and I'm going to earn their vote.
How important is it for you to be open and transparent as a GM?
I think our league has certainly gone through some growing pains. We're only entering year 8, so there's been a lot of ups and downs along the way, and part of that has been fans feeling like even as a league we haven't been that transparent, and a lot of clubs haven't been transparent, or you don't see enough behind the scenes. So for me, I saw an opening. That's sort of my leadership style anyway. So I saw an opening for us to, at Sky Blue, really try to tell people more about what's going on, involve them in the process. They needed to know this wasn't going to be an overnight fix. It wasn't going to be 24 hours on the job and suddenly everything's better. So for me, keeping them involved along the way, I think helps them to understand that we're making progress, that we have a vision, that it's not going to happen tomorrow, but we're still working on it. So as much as I can share with them and bring them into the process, I think helps to build that sense of community.
Do you think this was one of the main reasons your community continued to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I hear from fans of other teams saying that, hey, you're not my first team and I don't live in New Jersey, but I'm going to make you my second team, I'll take that. That's okay for me. I'll be some folks' second team that don't live in New Jersey. I think that's all right. So I think when I hear those things, I know we're on the right track and we're doing something really positive that's inspiring for people, and that's really meaningful.
Does the front office always feel like you are a part of the team struggles or challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a lot of ways we feel really responsible for them. When I say wins and losses, I mean both on and off the field, and all the victories and the challenges that we share. Our front office bears the brunt of that, and we really feel like we're the front line for everything that happens, especially with the fans. Obviously, we believe in these players. We want to see these women do well as professionals, both on and off the field. But we definitely take on the responsibility for making sure that we're interacting with the fans in a really positive way and showing them a good experience.
So I live in Marion, Iowa, and I know you grew up in Clinton. Sometimes it is easy to feel like I'm far from soccer opportunities. Did you ever feel that way?
I think for me, my soccer journey was so natural. I never really had a big dream as a child of being a general manager, for example, because I didn't even know what that was at the time. To your point, growing up in Iowa, soccer maybe wasn't the biggest sport, and I grew up in the 80s, which is well before you, but soccer wasn't a big sport there. I never saw it on TV. I wasn't exposed to any type of professional soccer, whether in the U.S. or internationally. In Iowa, it's softball, volleyball, basketball. Basketball was my sport. But I played high school soccer. I really enjoyed it. And that was the first time I had a coach say, hey, have you thought about a college scholarship? And I said, what? I didn't know you could play in college. I didn't know what that was. So he really planted the seed for me. His name was Kurt, in the possibility of playing in college. And I realized I really liked it. When I went to St. Ambrose, I played basketball and soccer my first year. But I ended up falling in love with soccer that first year that I went to college. And through that process, that became my game. I became really passionate about it. I got to study abroad in Ireland and realize how insane the rest of the world was about soccer and how much they loved it, and I was completely hooked from that point on.
Do you think it's important that now more games are being televised and there's more social media?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's both on the men's and the women's side. You know, our women's game continues to grow, and women's sports still gets less than 4% of the media coverage, which is really small in the grand scheme of things. It's mostly men's sports that are covered, so anytime we can put our games on TV or expose new fans, or even just provide our current fans an easier way to watch and follow along their favorite teams and their favorite players is really important.
How can the game and the pro women's game become more accessible to girls my age?
I think especially on the women's side, we've always been pretty good about making sure that we engage with youth soccer clubs and, you know, even high school teams. We do some programs at Sky Blue for high school teams, for club teams. So I think we've done a pretty good job of that, making sure that our games are a family-friendly space for everybody and making them feel welcome. You know, we don't have to worry about, you know, too much violence or anything that maybe isn't family friendly at a women's soccer match. We do have our supporters groups. It's a welcoming culture. There's obviously young singles there. There's people that can enjoy a beer at the game. But all these different segments are what make up our community. And it's a safe space for everybody to be there. So we'll continue to interact with youth girls clubs, youth boys clubs as well, because it's important that we also work with them, get our players out into the community and make sure that they're an inspiration and can provide more both role models and, again, just the opportunity for especially young girls, but also boys as well, to see women in powerful positions and know that that's something that they can strive to become.
So you had said you studied abroad in Ireland. Did you find the level of play was different?
Yeah, it's a little less structured there. They had club soccer, but it was really anybody could sort of volunteer to come out and play. It's completely run by the students, so I went up for nomination and became the vice president of my club. That's actually how I learned the business side of soccer a little bit. We had to fundraise for ourselves. We had to go find a coach. We had to find our own fields. Again, that was where I really fell in love with soccer as a whole, but also learned that there was a business side to it that I really enjoyed being a part of as well as playing. So that experience was really important for my development as well as part of the process and growing and learning and loving the game. But it was a little, at least on my club team at my university, not quite the level of my college team, not quite as competitive.
Do you think if you wouldn't have studied abroad in Ireland, you'd be here today?
It definitely exposed me on that business perspective for soccer, and it grew my love of the game tremendously. So it's hard to say, but I think that was a really important point in my life and my pathway to my career that exposed me again that this is the world's game. And I've always been so passionate about wanting to travel. Again, as a young kid in Iowa, I had a world poster on my wall and I dreamed about traveling, and going to Ireland was the first time I had ever been on an airplane. Actually, I never had been on one when I was younger. So that was really exciting for me to be exposed to the world, to understand that soccer is the world's game, and also then to work on the club team and have that opportunity to learn the business side of it. It really was everything to me. So I guess in looking back, I probably wouldn't be here without that experience.
So growing up in a smaller town in Iowa, when you started to do more GM roles in bigger cities, was there a lot of difference?
Yeah, I think every market is a little bit different and has its own culture. The U.S. is a really, really big country. So L.A. is a lot different from New York, is a lot different from Chicago, and then I've certainly been in Seattle as well. So you've got some smaller markets, some bigger markets. You have to change the way you market and promote the team in each market depending on, you know, the demographic and where you're at and how many people you can reach. So yeah, every city is a little bit different. I think you keep the same basic premise of your leadership style, and I've developed that over time, that developing that sense of community is where everything starts. Making sure you're putting the club into the fans' hands and making them feel really a part of it is where everything starts, no matter where you're at.
When you first moved into big city, was it a little weirder? Because I know my dad and I have been making a joke all convention how it's weird for me to see so many escalators and go on the escalators so many times.
Yeah, I can relate as a kid from Iowa to that. Being in a big city with all these tall buildings. I think the tallest building in my town is maybe 4 stories. So yeah, the big city is definitely different. But I love it. There's such a fun cultural diversity, so many different people, and I think isn't that representative of soccer as a whole? Seeing so many different people, and that's what I love about big cities, certainly.
So I know you had shared how much you honored your grandmother. Could you tell me a little bit about her?
Yeah, she helped raise me. So single parent family. My father died when I was young, so my mother raised me. But my grandma lived down the road, so she de facto became my second mother and my second parent. She ran a tavern for really up until she was in her 80s, a neighborhood tavern. Again, that's part of where I get my sense of community as well. It's from growing up in a tavern and being around all those people. So she was really important to my life, just being with her, spending so much time with her and seeing a really strong woman managing her own business and doing her own thing. That was really important to me in my development. And she was a big sports fan. She always had, if it wasn't a soap opera on the TV, then she either had the Cubs or the Bulls on. So I grew up watching them and sort of became fans of those teams because of her.
How do you try and honor her in your work today?
Yeah, I think I am who I am because of her, and being able to again, watch a strong woman run a business, be an entrepreneur, really be the head of the household, manage the whole family, all my uncles and aunts and cousins and everybody. And also she was managing an entire community. All of South Clinton was really based around Walker's Tavern. So she was running this whole community. I remember the house was actually connected to the tavern, believe it or not. But I remember when I was younger sitting in her kitchen and somebody from the tavern would come in and call her mom or grandma. And I'm thinking, they're not related to me. I don't know who this is. But that's how she was. A lot of people called her Saint Helen because she took care of everybody in our little community. If they needed help, they came to her. If they needed a hand or were down on their luck, she would take care of them. So I think not only the entrepreneur and the business side, but I learned a lot about love from her and how we should take care of one another.
How did your family support you following your dreams?
Yeah, I think just very simply. My mom always told me I could do whatever I wanted to do. And I know that sounds really simple when you think about it, but she repeated that a lot to me. She said, you can do whatever you want to do. Just over and over again. She didn't know anything about sports, so it was the type of thing where she would come to all of my games, but she didn't understand them. So no matter what happened during the game, she would say, oh, you did good today, and I'd be really mad because it was a terrible game and we lost and I didn't play well. So she was probably a little bit naive in her support just because she didn't understand it, but I'm sure that was very meaningful to me growing up, having somebody to always say, it's okay, you did a good job, and realize that it's more than wins or losses or what happens on the field. But she always said, you can do whatever you want to do, and that's always stuck with me.
So we've made it to our final question. What do you hope people remember about your impact to soccer and the world?
Well, I hope I still have a long career ahead of me in soccer, so I'm not sure if I can get to my legacy yet. Again, especially here at the convention, I see so many women that have been in and around the game of soccer for 30, 40 years now, and I really look to them as inspiration. So, with me being about 12 years into my professional career, certainly I've been an athlete and a player longer, but I still have a long way to go in my legacy. But when I get to the end of that road and people look back, I hope they see me as somebody that loved the game, loved the people within the game, and brought people together. I think that's one of the most important things is being able to inspire others. And that comes in a whole variety of ways. So I hope I provide some inspiration, not just to the next generation, but other people around the game, and being a steward of the beautiful game, as you say, and taking care of it.
I think Alyse is one of the most powerful women in soccer right now. When I sat with her, it was really comfortable, and I could tell her just by being around her that she would do anything she could to help me. I even shared one of my goals for the podcast, and she smiled and said, we can make that happen. The history of Sky Blue does have some rocky moments, but with her helping to lead the way, I know that there's amazing things ahead for this team. Even in the past few weeks, we have seen a number of announcements from them. Alyse listens to her fans, hears and responds to the opportunities for improvement, and empowers those around her. Next week, we'll talk with one of her early mentors, Peter Wilt. I want to end by thanking everyone for listening and to those who have supported me along the way. I know there's an awesome women's soccer symposium in Wisconsin and the Iowa soccer event in Des Moines. I can't wait to hear updates and hopefully can join you both next year. And until I see you next week, remember to keep the game beautiful.